Yeah, the Friday edition of Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. Good to be back at the world's largest music festival, Summerfest 2024. The marathon continues, day 5 of 9 here at Henry Meyer Festival Park in beautiful Milwaukee. A little rainy today, a little dark, not too cold though, so we can rock on with it. A couple of bands on the agenda tonight that I will get to in just a second, but first I am Alex Strouf with you, just outside of the Gruber Law Offices Sports Zone at the Summerfest grounds. I'm here all afternoon, so if you're watching or coming down to Summerfest later, you're listening on the podcast feed, swing by, say hi. I'm with you until 5 o'clock with Kyle Bruston Nortman here at the Summerfest grounds. And by the way, I'll be here all night. I got a couple of bands I want to see. I'll tell you who those are in just a second because I need to run a dilemma I'm having past Hunter, Tiny Hands, who's back in the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. But I've been here every night. This is day 5 of 9 here at Summerfest. And I'm doing the marathon. We've got 4 nights left, tonight, tomorrow, and then next weekend here at Summerfest. And next weekend, oh boy, we're off, right? July 4th, July 5th, July 6th. So it is just going to be a party next weekend as well. But looking forward to tonight. Hunter, I think tonight is the best music night for me personally of the 9 days at Summerfest. However, I am having a dilemma, and I think I know where you're going to land on said dilemma, but I do want to get your opinion on it. So I want to see 2 different bands who happen to be playing at the same time at the furthest stages away from one another tonight. So I'm curious, do I try to bounce back and forth, or do I start at one, end at the other? The 2 bands in questions, by the way, alternative rock group by the name of Hippocampus, who I'm a big fan of, and the other, a 2000s and 2010s kind of emo alternative rock band, pop punk band by the name of the All-American Rejects. I'm sure you're familiar, Hunter.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah, those are the 2 bands I want to see tonight. They start at the same time. They are on the stages the furthest away from each other. I did, however, plan out that route last night. I bounced between 2 bands at the same stages. I think I can make it back and forth in about 5 minutes. So I think there might be a case to be made of bouncing back and forth between the 2, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to miss any or too much of either. So I'm having a real dilemma on what to do tonight.
Now, are you going to this with the lady friend?
Yeah, among some other people.
Okay.
I'm going with a group, so I could literally go by myself to Hippocampus for a while if she wants to stay put or whatever.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if she is very in on one or the other, then that's the one you go with. Also,
she is. It's the All-American Rejects. Yeah, she is.
Okay, have you seen them before?
So, okay, I have not seen either of these bands before.
Oh, okay.
So that's part of the dilemma. Now, the other part is Hippocampus, like, at their peak right now, right? They're in their prime. They are touring. They're making new music still. They're a very hit band, and still, like, in their prime. The All-American Rejects haven't released a hit song in a decade. So I worry that this could be my last opportunity to see them before, either they call it quits or maybe they stop touring as much. Like, I don't know what's next for them.
Yeah.
So I think I got to find a way to make both happen. I just don't know how.
See, I think you commit to one, and I think you go with Hippocampus. Because odds are All-American Rejects, you're going to be able to see them at, like, the Winnebago County Fair in a few years. Like, you'll be able to.
I don't know about that.
I think so. I think you're going to be fine. You'll be able to find another chance to see them. If you have a chance to see a band that you feel like is at their peak and they're at their prime, you need to take that opportunity. I learned this lesson from my dad because he missed out on opportunities in, like, the 70s to see Alice Cooper when he was at his peak, and he always regretted it.
But I don't know if either of these bands are comparable to Alice Cooper, right? Sports Cards and More on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube stream says, dude, you got to go to All-American Rejects. All right, so we have opinions. We'd love to hear yours on the ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee YouTube streams, as well as the ESPN Madison Facebook page. And if you're listening after the fact, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, where you can find Mr. Irrelevant, presented by Door County Distillery. Let's dive into the sports side. Maybe we'll come back to this band dilemma I'm having tonight here at Summerfest 2024, day 5 of 9 here at Henry Meyer Festival Park. The Cubs come back to town tonight. The Traitors back. The Traitors back in town. Craig Counsell in the last place Chicago Cubs visiting the first place Milwaukee Brewers and the beloved first-year manager, Pat Murphy, who strikes again this week in the media. We talked about it on Wednesday with Pat Murphy. The text he sent to new pitcher Dallas Keuchel and the contributions or lack thereof he will make to the team. Sincerely yours, Pat Murphy. We played the text message he sent to Keuchel on Wednesday's show. Now, earlier this week, Pat Murphy, in true Pat Murphy fashion, saying this, quote, "I don't look at Twizzler." Yeah, he's not referring to the licorice. He's referring to Twitter. I don't look at Twizzler. So if you want to get at me on Twizzler, you can do that at Alex_Strouf, STROUF is where you can find me on Twizzler. As Pat Murphy, just an absolute gem of a human being, a gem of a manager, already beloved in his first season as the Milwaukee Brewers manager, replacing the traitor, the clown show, Craig Counsell, now in Chicago. I love it. I love Pat Murphy. This dude is an absolute gem. Hunter dubbed him earlier in the week Wisconsin's dad, and I wasn't sure if I agreed with that. Hunter, after this one, I mean, this sounds like something everybody's dad would say.
Exactly.
I don't look at Twizzler.
Exactly. He's cemented it now. He is locked in. He's Wisconsin's dad.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's an argument against it anymore, Hunter. But you know who else this reminded me of? And I'm curious if you thought this as well. There is a now former NFL coach who would say this exact line. Do you know who I'm thinking of?
Exactly like Bill Belichick.
100%. Yeah, it sounds like Bill Belichick. And if Pat Murphy ends up being 15% of the leader that Bill Belichick was, that means what, like 1 or 2 World Series wins for the Milwaukee Brewers? If Pat Murphy can take that Bill Belichick energy and translate it as the manager of the Brewers? I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there at this point. I love that idea. So Pat Murphy, Wisconsin's dad, strikes again. I don't look at Twizzler. Amazing line. That's your quote of the week from Brewers manager Pat Murphy. But the Cubs do come to town. They are in last place of the NL Central. The Milwaukee Brewers are in first place of the NL Central. And I've thrown out this stat a few times over the course of the last few weeks. How many different starters the Brewers have had, which I imagine leads the MLB. It was 12. Since we have last talked, it is now 14 as Dallas Keuchel gets a start after the Brewers acquire him from Seattle. And then Hobie Milner, who is now the only name to both have a save and a start. He's technically the opener is what they dubbed him, going back to the old Craig Counsell theory that he used in the postseason a few times of the openers rather than a true starter. But Hobie Milner opening the game for the Crew the other day. Also has a couple saves on the year for the Crew. So 8 different guys have made a save for the Brewers. Now 14 different starters for the Brewers this season. And they're still a first-place ball team. This is a team that is finding ways to win unlike anybody else in Major League Baseball. And they are looking like they are in a position to be true buyers 1 month from Sunday as the trade deadline approaches, July 30th. They already make a low-risk, high-reward move for Dallas Keuchel earlier in the week. We will see what they can pull off over the course of the next month as they hopefully gear up for a nice postseason push. Now, I understand the Brewers are not built like some of these other teams in the MLB, like the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Yankees. I understand that, but you play the game for a reason. We've seen low-budget teams have an immaculate run in October. Think last year, the Texas Rangers, who pull off the win in the World Series. They're a trash team this year. We just saw the Brewers sweep them earlier this week at AmFam Field. So I'm curious to see what the Brewers are able to put together and pull off as we approach the trade deadline, but they are a fun story. 48-33, 15 games above 500, 6.5-game lead in the NL Central, and the Chicago Cubs, you love to see it, way there at the bottom of the standings, 10.5 games back of the Brewers. A 3-game opportunity this weekend at AmFam Field to make that cushion even larger. Man, I love seeing Craig Counsell turn his back on his hometown team and struggle in year one as the Cubs manager. And look, I said this earlier when it comes to Craig Counsell. I think I'm over the hatred and spewing the boos and all that. You can boo him. I'm fine with that. But I'm kind of over everything else when it comes to the Craig Clown Show. I'll still call him that, but It is what it is. He made a personal decision. He made a business decision. And look how it's working out for him. 38-44, 10.5 games back in last place of the NL Central. Love to see it. Hunter, go ahead.
I'm past the booing part, but I just have to clown the Cubs every bit of this. Until they can somehow figure something out. They got the best manager in baseball to somehow and overpay him to be a last place team, and the team that he left that didn't add anything to then suddenly be a better team. And he's supposed to be the best manager in baseball. This is incredible. I absolutely love it. I'm going to revel in every second of this. And I know eventually the Cubs will probably figure it out because they'll pay somebody $500 million to come and play for them, because that's what the Cubs do. They don't actually fix their issues. They just buy new solutions to things. So it'll be fun. Like, it's whatever, but I'm going to revel in this as long as I possibly can.
As you should, my friend, as you should. 3-game series kicks up tonight at AmFam Field between the last place Cubs, the first place Brewers. The Brewers are just... they are such a hilarious, hilarious. Hilarious isn't the right word, but like, it's such an unbelievable rise. They're winning in ways you just wouldn't expect. They've got these young up and comers that are having their moments. You have the Rhys Hoskins grand slam earlier in the week. You had the Jackson Chourio inside the Parker earlier in the week. It's just weird how they're finding ways to win, but they are such pure entertainment value. And I've said this time and time again. I will do it one more time as we wrap up the Brewers talk here on today's edition of Mr. Irrelevant. But if you are one of the baseball fans that turns on opening day and kind of tunes out until post-All-Star break or around this time once the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup wrap up, man, you're waking up at a good time. You're waking up to a first-place ball team, and you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. Typically, that's how I am as a baseball fan, but this team just continues to pull me back in this year, and they are really, really fun to watch. David on the YouTube chat, going back to the band dilemma we talked about at the beginning of the show. Strouf, if you're having a band dilemma for Summerfest tonight, I have an easy fix. DJ Strouf on location. Problem solved. I'm going to give you a sneak preview of DJ Strouf. He is going to make his full-blown appearance on Kyle Brust and Nortman later today as we relive some of the greatest TV show theme songs in history on Kyle Brust and Nortman from 2 to 5 on ESPN Wisconsin later this afternoon. But Gabe Neitzel, who will join me tomorrow, as well as Jason Wilde, here at Summerfest for our annual State of the Packers show, which, by the way, you do not want to miss that tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. here live from Summerfest. State of the Packers, Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel, and myself with you, breaking down each position group from 1 to 4, and that'll be replayed a ton this week across ESPN Wisconsin for the holidays, July 4th and July 5th. You can catch some replays of that wherever you get your podcasts. Watch it live on YouTube. It is one of my favorite shows of the year. But anyway, Gabe Neitzel was on Greeny today. At the end of the show, I will give you a sneak preview of DJ Strouf and what Gabe Neitzel has inspired for us later this afternoon from 2 to 5 on Kyle Brust and Norman. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. Everything they do it better than everybody else. They do it local, and they know how to make a kick-ass party a kick-ass party, whether it's that cherry vodka made with local Door County cherries, the cherry brandy, same thing, their coffee extract made in collaboration with Door County Coffee, and everything. I mean, the award-winning whiskeys. I'm a whiskey guy. They're 27-time award-winning single malt whiskey. They've also got the delicious bourbon. They also have rye whiskey, if that's your flavor. It's available local and everywhere. Check out their website, doorcountydistillery.com. Find the retailer nearest you. It's affordable, it's local, it's delicious, and it will elevate whatever you got going on, whether it's a party, whether it's a gathering, whether it's a tailgate for this weekend series in Milwaukee, whatever you got going on, elevate it with Door County Distillery, doorcountydistillery.com. We step aside for 60 seconds. When we come back, Mike Tannenbaum said Jordan Love should get paid what? On Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio. We'll dive into that next. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf.
Back at Door County Distillery in Carlsville, Wisconsin, with my friend Beth from Door County Distillery. We're mixing up the peach gin and juice today. That sounds like Snoop Dogg would love it. Talk to me, Beth. What are we mixing?
So we're using our gin, our flagship gin today. It's gin, lemonade, a little grenadine, and then our peach wine. So you remember the Carlsville sour we did last year?
I do, very well, yeah.
Same concept. It's just the gradient's gonna be in reverse. So we're gonna start with 1.5 ounces of our gin.
The classic green bottle.
We're gonna do 1 ounce of grenadine. 2 ounces of our lemonade. We're gonna stir that with our bar spoon.
Got it, before we add the wine.
And then we're gonna use the back of our bar spoon to float the peach wine on top. And there we go.
Looks like summer to me, Beth. Cheers.
Cheers.
The Peach Gin and Juice from Door County Distillery with my friend Beth.
Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at DoorCountyDistillery.com. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. Yeah, DoorCountyDistillery.com, the website. Go check it out. And Hunter, if you just missed it, you can go back, scan the QR code. Huge list of unique cocktail recipes as well on the website that I didn't mention, so you can check it out there. All right, we got to dive into this, man. We got on Sportsmanlike weekdays from 5 to 9 ESPN Madison, 5 to 7 ESPN Milwaukee, and heard nationwide on ESPN Radio. That's ESPN Radio's new morning show with Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, Michelle Smallman. Mike Tannenbaum, the former NFL GM, he was the president of football operations for a few years, 2015 to 2018 for the Dolphins, previously the general manager of the New York Jets back in the Rex Ryan era. So he's got a ton of experience in football. We've played a lot of Mike Tannenbaum on the show this summer, as he has been a big advocate for Jordan Love being the best up-and-comer in the NFL, being one of the best quarterbacks in the league already after seeing what he was able to put together in his first year as the starter for the Green Bay Packers. Mike Tannenbaum is the biggest advocate nationally, I would argue, for our guy Jordan Love, and rightfully so, right? And like when it comes to Mike Tannenbaum, no, he did not lead the best teams in NFL history by any means. However, this is a guy that worked in the NFL at a very high level for over a decade. So I tend to trust his opinion when it comes to evaluating talent. Here is what Mike Tannenbaum said the Packers should do with Jordan Love and what Jordan Love should do when it comes to the impending contract extension for Love. You got to hear this.
I am not even returning a call. I'm going to wait for Dak Prescott, and then I'm looking for $60 million a year for 10 years. And
sorry, what did you say? 10 years?
Yes, $60 million a year for 10 years. And if I'm the Packers, I say yes. Why wouldn't you?
Wait, well, hold on. 10-year, $600 million deal.
Easy. Yep.
How much guaranteed?
That's where it's going to get interesting. You know, like
I want 300 at least guaranteed.
Yeah, I want to be less than that if I'm the Packers. But here's what's going to happen, guys. We're at 55 now. You know, Dak Prescott is going to get, fill in the blank, 56 and a half, either from, let's just say, Dallas or the Raiders. Someone's going to pay him that. If I'm Jordan Love, much the way we're going to see Jamar Chase sort of like draft behind the Justin Jeffersons of the world, if I'm Jordan Love, I'm telling my agent, don't return a call until Dak Prescott signs. And when he signs, we're going to go north of him. So if it's at 55 now and it goes to 56 and a half with Dak, $60 million for someone who's his age is a very reasonable number.
But we're up.
Is a very reasonable number. Reasonable is not the word I would use to describe that contract extension. However, is it a good idea? Now, the only other contract like that we have to compare it to is a few years ago when Patrick Mahomes signed his 10-year, $500 million extension. So that's $100 million less than what Tannenbaum is suggesting here, and obviously $10 million per year less than what Love could get signed. Obviously, the market has changed, and that's why the Chiefs were smart for pulling the trigger when they did. It actually may have been a 10-year, $450 million a year deal, Hunter. If you don't mind looking up Mahomes' contract,
I'll look that up.
It's either 450 or 500. It was a ridiculous deal though because it was 10 years. He had just won the MVP 2 years prior, and then won his first Super Bowl the season in which they signed that extension. So it was absurd at the time. We viewed it as such a long-term commitment to a guy who had done some stuff, right? He had won a league MVP, had won a Super Bowl. Neither of those things Jordan Love has done. The Jordan Love scenario was weird, though, because you only got really 1 year of Love on a cheap deal. He sat for 3 years. They had to make the decision on whether they would give him the fifth-year option. They extended him and kind of hedged their bets, but now they're faced with the decision of, okay, he won a playoff game. He was the best quarterback in football the second half of the season. He has proven he can be a franchise-level quarterback. So now what do? Oh, you wait for Jared Goff to sign an extension at $53.5 million a year. Oh, and then you wait for Trevor Lawrence to sign an extension at $55 million a year. And now all of a sudden you've got two names left. Tua Tagovailoa, who we talked about on Wednesday, is not being offered a $55 million a year deal, and Dak Prescott, who we imagine will get offered a $55+ million a year deal. But will it be this offseason? I defer to the Cowboys fan on the panel. Hunter, what is the chatter around Dak Prescott? Because you pay a hell of a lot more attention to what's going on in Dallas than I do. Is he going to sign this offseason? Will it be next year? Will he play on his current deal? Will he hold out? Where are the talks at with Dak Prescott? Because that's the guy Tannenbaum is referring to when it comes to, hey, you got to wait until this happens.
The fan base is we're just hoping that it happens because they just don't want to deal with it. Like I keep saying, he's getting him into the playoffs. He hasn't been really the reason they've lost these playoff games. He hasn't played great, but he hasn't been the full reason why they've lost. I think that they get a deal done next year. And then that's terrifying if I'm a Packers fan to think that Jordan Love is just going to play on a 1-year deal and you're hoping that he doesn't get hurt or Teddy Bridgewater it or anything like that, because if that happens, then suddenly his number drops down to the Patrick Mahomes number of like $45 million, and he just lost out on close to $15 million a year because he decided to wait it out and deal with another quarterback. I think if I'm Jordan Love, you've got to just strike while the iron's hot. You've got to get the deal done while your stock is at the highest right now. And maybe you make it a 3 or 4 year deal instead of a 10-year deal like Mahomes did. It was 2020 offseason. He did 10 years, $450 million. But the Cowboys want to get it done, but they're also trying to figure out, like, okay, do we care more about CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, who would both make about $30 million a year? Or do we care about having Dak at that close to $60 million? That's the issue that the Cowboys are in right now. And the Packers, luckily, they don't have to deal with that. So you might as well sign the quarterback. Yeah, not yet. And I don't know if they're going to have two guys that are going to be at that number.
I mean, here's the thing you got to think about, right? Like a guy like Xavier McKinney. He's still young, and he's viewed as one of the best safeties in the league. Now, they just signed him, so they've got a few years. The wide receivers, what if one of those guys develops into a top-tier talent? What if one of the tight ends becomes the next Travis Kelce, George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson of this league, right? What if they join the Sam Laporta club as the next up-and-coming tight end? I mean, you're going to have decisions to make, but luckily your window isn't in 2024. Your window is more in 26 and 27. You've got a few years. And that's why the Love contract is such an important piece to the future of this franchise, because the salary cap will continue to go up. We know that. Given prior examples in past years, the salary cap only continues to go up, which means you have more money allocated to pay a guy like Jordan Love that outrageous number of $60 million a year, and you'll have more money to play with some of those other guys that might develop into those big contract getters, those big money getters, offensively and defensively. And hey, what if a guy like, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a name out there. What if a guy like Quay Walker really takes the next step this season? You're going to have a decision to make on him at some point coming up here in the next few years as well. So it's something to keep an eye on. I think the idea of a 10-year contract is outrageous. I think it's completely asinine. I don't think Love has proven enough to you to sign a 10-year deal. I understand from a financial standpoint why you would think it might be a good idea, because in 8 years, $60 million a year is going to be pocket change for quarterbacks. We've already seen what happened to Mahomes. He's barely in the top 10 per year for quarterbacks. I think he's number 9 or number 10 in terms of annual average value at the quarterback position. But there is no quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. He's clearly the best in the league. It's not even close. So I understand the idea of a 10-year deal. I just don't think it's a very good idea right now. As much as I think Jordan Love is the guy, and as much as I think Jordan Love can be your franchise quarterback and can win MVP awards and can likely get you eventually to a Super Bowl and maybe even win one. But I think the idea of a 10-year deal is just insane, especially when it's at that money, right? $600 million. You heard Evan Cohen's reaction. Hold on. Wait a minute. What? Right? Because the idea is so out there, because there's only been one quarterback that's signed a deal like that, and he's the best we've seen, maybe ever, in Patrick Mahomes. 10 years is nuts, Hunter, right? Like, I'm not
yeah, and
I understand Tannenbaum's thinking outside the box a little bit, but 10 years is crazy.
But this is also the problem when you make a statement that not necessarily is like the most insane thing in the world, i.e. like me saying that Graham Mertz is a good quarterback, but then you have to stick by that statement because you can't fold and then all of a sudden just collapse on it. And I think that's where Tannenbaum is right now, is he made this statement, he said this, and now he's going on every show and he's got to back it up because the second he backtracks on it, he's going to get ripped apart for it. So he's just going to have to die on what has turned into now his Graham Mertz is a good quarterback, and he's got to just stick with 10 years, $600 million. I'm only taking Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. Same way I'm only going to take Caleb Williams in college football over Graham Mertz. Like, you just got to stick with it and ride the wave.
Oh, that was well done by you, man. Hold on real quick. Let's just state of the Graham Mertz check-in. Is Graham Mertz a good quarterback?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 4 quarterback prospect in all of college football going into the draft. Dude's going to be a day 2 pick. I'm calling it right now.
You're going to need to cut that, buddy. You're going to need to save that take.
Oh, I will.
That's bold. And you might be right, but obviously a lot rides on this upcoming season for Graham Mertz. Unbelievable. Hey, by the way, how about Squat Fest taking place today, the second annual Squat Fest at Wisconsin football today? Mark Tauscher was live there all day for Wilde and Tausch today from 9 to noon. If you missed that, it was electric. Squat Fest, if you're not familiar, it's the second year for strength coach Brady Collins in the Wisconsin football program. It's something he installed last year. Every player on the Wisconsin football team maxes out their squat today. It's just electric. They've got a DJ, they've got lights, it's a whole thing, cameras everywhere. And Tauschi was in the middle of the mix today, which is just amazing during the second annual Squat Fest for the Wisconsin football program. As we gear up, I mean, the college football season's less than 2 months away. That's insane, man. We are almost out of the dog days. And really not even the dog days because the Brewers are so damn fun right now that we've still got something as Wisconsin sports fans to watch and keep our eye on. But we are indeed, when it comes to football, and for you football fans like me, like that is by far and away my number one. We're less than 2 months away from the start of college football. We are less than a month away from training camp for the Green Bay Packers. Like, it is almost here, baby. Summerfest, and then you've got a little bit of a breather at the beginning of July into the MLB All-Star break, and then it's all hands on deck, pedal to the floor energy as we get ready for Green Bay Packers training camp, Wisconsin football training camp as well, and obviously the college football season kicking off at the end of August. So cannot wait for that. Before you know it, it is already going to be time for us to be talking Eagles-Packers in Brazil, which is just phenomenal and as exciting as all hell. So can't wait for that when it comes to all things football. But Love, look, I sound like I'm beating a dead horse because I continue to say it. I think it's between July 10th and the start of training camp when that deal gets done. It's about a week and a half window when Love has a football camp in Milwaukee. The quarterbacks and rookies report the day after his football camp, a couple days prior to that July 22nd date. That deal is going to get hammered out sometime in those 2 weekends, in that week in between when he has that football camp down here in the Milwaukee area. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. But I would guess we're probably still about 2 weeks away from a contract extension for Love. But it'll get done. I'm really not sweating it. I imagine it's a 4 or 5 year deal at most. I don't think it's a Tannenbaum 10-year special, but likely a 4 or 5 year deal at most. And he'll be the quarterback of the future. I really don't have concerns as to why it's quote unquote taking so long. I think we overinflated the idea that May 3rd was the date in which Love could sign an extension after last year's extension. So I'm not freaking out. I think give it 2 weeks. And then maybe I'll start freaking out because you know me. And if you've listened to me for a long time here on ESPN Wisconsin, you know I go like this a little bit sometimes, especially with the Green Bay Packers specifically. I ride that wave like nobody's business, man. Like I'm looking at Lake Michigan right now. I could be a surfer out there, man. I ride that wave like nobody's business. The roller coaster of emotions, the roller coaster of, hey, are they good? Are they not good? Is Love the guy? Is he not the guy last year? I ride that wave like nobody's business. So we will, I'm sure, get to a phase of that in the Love contract debacle. NBA draft over and done with. The Milwaukee Bucks with 2 selections. Pick 23, they grab A.J. Johnson, who played some ball in Australia, but out of Fresno, California, round 2. From the G League Ignite, they draft a guy by the name of Tyler Smith, the wrong Tyler. Hunter, you're a Marquette basketball fan. I like both teams. I really don't have a huge preference. I'm probably more Badgers than I am Marquette, but I like both teams. When Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum said the Milwaukee Bucks select Tyler, did your heart drop a little bit? Because mine did. I was listening to it live as I was getting ready to play it on Kyle Bruston Nortman. when he said the Bucks select Tyler, I for sure thought it was Tyler Kolek, who was second on the big board.
Yeah, I absolutely thought they were going to go Tyler Kolek. I almost had a dream come true with this draft. I thought they were going to take Kyle Filipowski from Duke with their first-round pick and then follow that up with a Marquette player. I mean, it would have been perfect. I would have been buying 2 jerseys. It would have been great. And instead, they go with 2 projects and are apparently think their window is in 4 years instead of right now. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But now I have to get a Knicks jersey, which is just weird. I'm going to do it, but it's weird.
You are going to get a Knicks jersey.
Heck yeah, I am.
You're going to get Kolek Knicks jersey. Nice. Oso Iguodala, by the way, the other Marquette player drafted. He goes to the Phoenix Suns. He's from Chandler, Arizona, so cool of him to get the opportunity to play for his home team, which is really cool for Iguodala. But you mentioned Kyle Filipowski. I'm not going to dive into it. I'm not going to touch this. But
it's so weird.
If you haven't read the story on maybe why Kyle Filipowski dropped down the draft boards and into the second round, just Google his name. You can read into that. But I'm not gonna tell you the story on this program because it's weird, to use Hunter's word. But Kyle Filipowski, the story of the NBA draft, really odd. So take a read on that. Who gets drafted in the second round? 1 pick before the Bucks to the Utah Jazz. There in the second round. So take a read on that. That's your weekend reading assignment from Professor Strouf here at Summerfest. But there you go. The Bucks, really drafting for the future. And 2 projects is the word Hunter used. I agree with him. I mean, it's just 2 guys that seem like they have abilities and they have talents. It's just a little raw right now. So we will see what comes to fruition on that. But look, at picks 23 and 33, you're likely not getting guys that can contribute right away anyway. So I don't know. I'm a little torn on it. I think free agency is much more of the free agency, which starts next week, is much more of the, hey, this will tell us what the Bucks think they truly have for the 24 season. But as it stands right now, the Knicks and the Celtics are above the Bucks in the Eastern Conference, so they're going the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's my frustration with it is the fact that, and it's not even because I root for the teams that both Tyler and Filipowski played for, but the fact that those were 2 guys that were seen as players who could come into the NBA, come off of the bench and contribute, and then maybe they develop into starters. That would have been a great upgrade for the Bucks. You get a guy in Filipowski that can go play the 5. He can stretch the floor still. That works well with Giannis. He's somebody that you could expect to get some points then off of the bench. And then Kolek can come in and replace Dame, and you still trust him to run an offense, conduct things, find the open guy, and can score at all 3 levels. I thought it made complete sense for both of those guys to go to Milwaukee, and then you get help, and you don't have to pay them as much, especially when we've talked a lot about the fact that the Bucks are in the second apron. They don't have a lot of money to be able to spend on free agency. It would have been a great spot, and instead it feels like they went with the Jordan Love pick of a couple of years ago, and they're just thinking about the future and not trying to actually win right now.
It's a good point, Hunter. It's well said by you. It's well said. We'll see. I think free agency is going to dictate a lot more of what the championship expectations are for the Bucks, which when you have Giannis and Dame on your roster, they're still active, but they're going the wrong way. I mean, you've watched the way the Knicks have gotten better and the way the Celtics just won a championship. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here in free agency and hopefully some trade moves for the Bucks and GM John Horst as they try to get back to the NBA Finals for the first time in at that point it'll be 4 years. I mean, it's been some really rough postseason goings, and obviously the injury things haven't broke the Bucks' way, but they're going the wrong way as it stands right now on June 28th. All right, as we do always, we wrap up the show. You learn something new every day. Hunter learned something new. I got a gem for you in my what we learned as we wrap up the show. Usually we play our music to end the show. I'm going to play something else today to end the show. But Hunter, I give you the floor. What have you learned?
I learned that I need to stop listening to the internet as much as I do.
Isn't that what you said on Wednesday?
No, I was just angry with Twitter. I mean, it's close. I was angry with the internet over college football recruiting and the way that we treat teenagers and tweeting at them when they are disloyal for changing their verbal commitments. This time I realized I need to not listen to what the internet has to say about shows and movies, and I need to just make my own opinion. I was very into the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte on Disney Plus, the Star Wars show. And then I saw some really bad reviews because I missed one of the episodes and they were just really bad and people were ripping it apart. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm just not going to watch it. Last night, I got caught up on the last 3 episodes I missed. It was great. It was fantastic. I shouldn't have listened to the internet. I had a great time watching those episodes.
But Hunter, you didn't listen to the internet. You still watched it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I shouldn't. I should have just watched from the start. And instead, I waited 3 weeks, and I was like, I'm not really sure. I don't know. And then I'm like, you know what? I have nothing else to do,
okay.
So I guess I'll just put this on and just see what it is. And then they were great. There was nothing wrong with them. I loved the episodes. It's a great show, and I shouldn't have listened to the internet.
That's fair. All right, there you go. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed. What day are we on of Bachelor Hunter? Is your wife still gone on her work trip?
I am on to day number 7. I'm going to get to see her for like 10 minutes when she comes home to switch her luggage out and then has another trip over the weekend up to the Twin Cities.
Oh, man.
So I've got 2 more days to go. There's been a lot of spicy food because she hates spicy food, so it's been great. But I also need to get some cleaning done because the apartment definitely looks like a single man lives in the apartment.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
It's
Attaboy.
bad.
Attaboy. That means you're enjoying it. That's good. All right. A couple things before we get out of here with the best thing you'll ever hear. And what I learned is Gabe Neitzel has pipes. But just want to remind you, State of the Packers, it is legitimately one of my favorite things I get to do with ESPN and Wisconsin. It's my 3rd year doing it with Jason Wilde and Gabe Neitzel. We do a position-by-position check-in of every position group on the Green Bay Packers and give you like an overarching takeaway heading into training camp in the 2024 NFL season. 2 guys I just fully respect and love working with, and Jason Wilde and Gabe Neitzel. And, Gabe's also a huge Packers fan like I am, and so we just love to nerd out together. And then Jason, I mean, he's around the team. He's been around the team just about as long as I've been alive. So to hear his insight and some of the things and the sights and sound he sees in the off-season programs and talking to people in the building and talking to the players, it's just terrific insight. So if you're a Packers fan, you do not want to miss it. It's well worth your time. State of the Packers beginning at 1 o'clock on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee tomorrow. You can get it in the Green and Gold Fix podcast feed on Wisconsin On Demand, wherever you get your podcast. It'll be replayed a ton on the 4th and 5th of July across ESPN Wisconsin in place of Will Dean's house. So I just highly recommend listening to that because I lead the show, but I really get to take a back seat and listen to 2 smart guys and get to kind of chime in with my opinion and dive in to some of the different storylines that maybe we're not talking about a ton. It's the deepest we go because we really get in the weeds on like interior defensive line play and obviously the expectations for Love and the receivers and the tight ends and the O-line. We go through all the groups. So if you have 3 hours tomorrow where either you're driving or you're doing something, maybe some yard work, whatever you're up to, pop in some headphones, 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee for State of the Packers from 1 to 4 p.m. I imagine we will also hear this on State of the Packers tomorrow. What I learned is Gabe Neitzel of Jen, Gabe, and Chewy has pipes. Have a great weekend. We're back with you Monday beginning at 12:30 on these very platforms, wherever you get your podcast. Play us out, Gabe Neitzel.
That's embarrassing. Don't be a fraud.
In the world today takes everything you got.
Yeah?
That was good.
Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away?
Get away.
Bum, 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 bum. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see troubles are all the same. You want to be where everybody knows your name.